So everybody hear us, I hope. So thank you for being here today after these 2 days of conference. So I will first introduce ourselves. So I'm Thibaut, the CIO of the group EBTrans, and I'm here today with my colleagues, Manon, business analyst, and our chief financial officer, Nicolas. So we will explain our project regarding the migrations of all our accounting from SAP to Odoo, and we'll explain you the why and the how and the timeline. And we'll try to answer the question: is Nicolas ready for his retirement after the project? So let's go to the details. So first, who we are. So we are a transport company, mainly focused in tank transport for dangerous and sensitive goods. We are active in different markets, so energy, building industry, foods and waste. We are a group spread all over Europe. So we are in 14 different countries, and we have a lot of different subsidiaries. And one particularity of our business is our growing is mainly based on acquisitions. So it's mainly external growing. And you will see how it impacts our IT project. So today we are more than 3,700 employees. We own and operate our own trucks, so 2,500. And we have a turnover of 460 million per year. So now let's talk about the project. So the project starts with the end of the maintenance of SAP, because we used to be on the SAP R3, and they push us to move to the SAP for HANA. And so we decide not to go to this migration project from SAP to SAP, but to replace SAP by Odoo. So at the very beginning of the project, we start with small apps of Odoo, so mainly business expense and also all the holiday requests. And after that, we really enter in the big project of migrating all the accounting of all our companies. So we have more than 100 companies in Europe where the accounting is in SAP. So we decided to move all this accounting to Odoo, and also to migrate all the data, because the idea is at the end of the project it's ready to be able to shut down SAP and to give access with all the report dashboard that we have in Odoo, also in the old data. So it's the migration part. It's also a big part of the project. So we had other goals during the premise of the project. So we also say we want to go for the purchasing module, so from order to cash, and the final goal is to be able to have a profit and loss report per truck. So last year we explained in another talk how we implement the follow-up of this. So you can check on YouTube. Yes. So, but before the starting of the project, we try to check if really Odoo can handle a company like us. So such a big, let's say a big group spread over Europe. So Nicolas will talk about the challenge we face.
So before starting the project, we had to overcome several gaps and challenges before deciding to go on with Odoo and to switch off SAP, like Thibaut explained. And the first challenge that we were faced with is the multiple depreciation rules, because the basic version in V16 that we were presented for Odoo didn't manage at the time statutory depreciation as well as tax depreciation and group depreciation, which was for us a no-go because natively this is something which is managed by SAP. Therefore, we requested our consultant Acsone to come up with a solution, which they did. And when we saw how quickly they managed to understand the issue, the fastness of the response, and the relatively low cost of the development that they presented to us, we decided to move on with the project, and we were quite convinced by the adaptability and flexibility of Odoo. And that was pretty much the only gaps, not the only challenge, but the only gaps that was really a no-go for EBTrans to leave SAP for Odoo. A challenge that then we had to face is the completely different logic or accounting logic between Odoo and SAP, because mostly SAP is built on a consolidated chart of accounts with a consolidated charts which are used for accounting purposes, while Odoo is rather built on a statutory chart of accounts focusing mostly on local regulations, which meant that we had to completely, let's say, reverse the way we were working or that we are working at the moment and invest significant amount of time and efforts in mapping SAP accounts to statutory accounts, and then from statutory accounts back to aggregated accounts to still be able to manage group reporting processes using one single chart of accounts. Thibaut explained you that we have now about 100 or more than 100 companies. I think we are around 114 companies at the moment. And we are present and working and operating in 14 different countries. And implementing Odoo in more than 100 companies was a significant challenge because the basic version that we were presented with is you have to basically parameter one chart of accounts for each company. And if we take the example of France, where we have more than 80 companies, this is something which is very complicated to maintain. Therefore, we worked with Acsone to develop a master chart of account, one for each country where we operate, and then we are able to duplicate this master chart of account to each of the subsidiary which is operating in the country. Therefore, now we don't need to manage over 100 chart of account for the 100 company, but rather 14 master chart of account for the 14 countries we are operating in, and then duplicate each of these master chart to each single subsidiary included in the country, which allows us to focus our efforts just to one chart, one country, rather than 100 companies.
So now let's talk a bit about the timeline of the whole project. So we decided to go for this project beginning of 2023. So the first plan was to start with French companies and holding companies in Luxembourg. But in parallel, we had to merge two Spanish companies due to some administrative reason. So we first thought about including this new company in SAP, but this would have cost us more than 5,000 euro and lots of development and so on. So that's why we decided to start earlier and with this new Spanish company. And then end of 2023, we deployed Odoo for the holding companies in Luxembourg. So in 2024, we deployed new acquisitions, so we bought new companies, and for the same reason as the new Spanish companies, we directly deploy them into Odoo so that we avoid extra costs in SAP. And then as the deployment process was better managed from our side, we started the big bang of all French companies, Luxembourgish companies and Belgian companies, so that the goal is that at the end of this year we will have Odoo in all West Rhine companies. And then in 2025 the goal is then to to focus on East Rhine countries, starting with Germany and Austria, and then move on with Eastern countries.
So let's talk a little bit about the benefits that Odoo has brought to EBTrans. First of all, that may be obvious for people who are using Odoo for a long time, but one of the main benefits that we have encountered moving from SAP to Odoo is the welcoming interface and a very intuitive menu, which has significantly improved the user experience and the adoption by our teams of Odoo. With Odoo, we have also increased the transparency and accessibility of information, which has allowed our team to drill down without effort from P&L statements, for instance, or balance sheet, to the detailed accounting entries, as well as the scan of invoices, the booking time, the name of the accountant, the payment date, and more information, which was in the past in SAP a nightmare to access without the help of a professional SAP user. This level of data accessibility has empowers our employees to make rather informed decisions efficiently, regardless of their location, because this is also accessible from a computer, from a mobile phone, and so on. We have also benefited from many new features that we didn't have in SAP. For instance, the new reporting module which we use is extremely flexible, which allows users to prepare and program reports which are meaningful for subsidiaries, but also for group reporting purposes. New features like OCR or the expense reports module have further streamlined our financial operations, which contributes to increase productivity and to be more efficient in the accounting process of our team. And finally, the mobile phone application, which we didn't have in SAP, has allowed EBTrans to access information more or less anywhere we are for all employees, whether they are at home, on train, on planes, in toilets, which has increased productivity as well for the company. If we speak about increased productivity and reduced costs focusing on bookkeeping, we have actually measured the improvement in the time we use to book an invoice, a supplier invoice in Odoo, and compare it to SAP, and we have managed to decrease the booking time down to 10 to 20 seconds using Odoo, while it was rather 7 minutes with SAP. To that, if we add the lower cost compared to solutions like SAP in terms of license, maintenance costs, development, we are really like increasing the productivity of the finance department drastically compared to the previous software that we were using.
What is also beneficial for us is the possibility to use Odoo for other processes than accounting. So we implement multiple other modules for our specific business needs. As an example, we have the gas well management system, which is connected to the fuel provider so that we can retrieve fuel quantities and kilometers and have almost in real time our truck consumption. We also have a quality management system for processes. We also build up an investment request validation so that all requests for investment are then compiled for the whole group. We also were able to tailor the invoice validation really specifically to our company needs. What we also specifically like in Odoo is that it can be adapted for our growing needs, and it allows us to add modules for many processes. To illustrate this adaptability, we first plan to use Odoo for the time of request of our employees and expenses, specifically for the holding companies. And then we moved on with the accounting project we just spoke about. And finally, within time, we ended up with using plenty of modules from Odoo. Many are general ones like document or planning, but there is also specific modules such as CapEx request, fleet, or other modules.
So Nicolas, are you ready for your retirement now?
So I am not completely ready for retirement at the moment because I believe that one very important module which is missing in Odoo, or at least in the version that we have implemented, is a real consolidation module, because we have all financial information of all our subsidiaries in the system, centrally gathered in Odoo. And at the moment, we still are obliged to pay an expensive consolidation software, which is able to manage intercompany reconciliation, intercompany eliminations, difference in depreciation duration, calculation of retirement provision, capitalization of finance lease. And I believe that if originally Odoo was targeted for small and medium-sized company, it's now more and more adopted by large corporations like our group. And I think this is really the missing piece, and only then we'll have Odoo overpassed SAP capabilities and can be considered as a global software which can tackle all aspects of corporate finance.
So thank you for your attention. So, do you have questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Thibaut, Nicolas, and Manon. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We now have the opportunity for a few questions. I have the pad open, so if you want to take a few seconds to write down some questions, yeah, I will read them. Actually, I have a question to start with while other people are writing. So obviously, you have a particular need as a company to manage a whole group of company with 80 companies. Well, more than 100 companies, 80 companies in France. You mentioned at the end that the consolidation functionality isn't what you would have needed to manage the accounting perfectly. Yeah, what else would you want to tell anyone who is trying to implement Odoo with a huge number of companies in terms of things to look out for, or things that
it's less complicated than it looks, basically, and that the user experience, whether you are an accountant or end user, like just for validation of invoices, as a site manager or country managers, and the accessibility to the data directly, like from your mobile phone, makes it like a controlling tool which is very effective. And for the moment, we haven't fully deployed Odoo in our 114 companies. But for the companies where we have deployed, like the user feedback that we receive is incredibly good.
That's very good to hear. Thank you so much. Okay, we now have a few questions here. There is one question about money. So what is the difference between the cost of SAP migration to 4HANA and migration to Odoo?
We don't know, because we requested 20 times a quotation for SAP HANA and they never came back to us. So I would say it's maybe 80% cheaper, but this is just based on my estimation.
Thank you so much. There's someone who's saying, great job, Acsone, your partner. How many
they are not bad, yeah.
Okay, great. How many people resources did you need for the migration?
So actually not that much.
Yes.
We have one guy who is fully dedicated to the migration. I mean, if we speak about data migration and of historical data. but the
with help of the accountant.
yeah. But basically, if we speak about France, which is the biggest country, with 3 people, they managed to migrate like the full set of data for 80 companies.
And,
One IT guy and 2 accountants.
And how long? That is since, I guess, the beginning of the project, I guess, since you started.
Like how long it takes? Like at the moment, our let's say path is about 14 companies every 2 weeks.
Thank you.
And we import about 12 years of transactions from SAP.
Okay. Okay. Okay, there are a few questions which are not totally... oh yes, there is one question which may be relevant for you. So, do you need some kind of ISO certification in your sector? And would that at all be relevant for you? Or
Yeah, we do need the ISO certification, yes.
And was there... Did Odoo fulfill your needs for that? Or
Not yet. No, we do not embrace the quality audit for the moment with Odoo. So yes, we have a lot of certifications because it's needed for food industry, for waste industry. Yeah, we have. I have auditor each 3 months in my office, so we have multiple obligations, but it's not yet implemented in Odoo. It's still managed with old software.
there was one very quick question. Is your Odoo solution implemented on-premise? So does it mean, do you have your own servers?
Yes. Well, it's handled by Acsone. So for us, it's like a software as a service or platform as a service, but it's not on Odoo SH. Because we have a lot of customizations coming from Acsone, we developed expressly for us, and we have also a lot of Oka module.
Okay, great. Next question about the migration from SAP. Did you get an SAP consultant to extract your data from SAP?
No.
Okay.
No, we reverse engineer the database of SAP. So it's why it's a bit painful and it takes some time, because we take the accounting but also the analytic accounting, and the model is not the same as Odoo, so yeah, it was a bit complex.
I can imagine. Okay, another question which I think comes very often when people are migrating to Odoo is, to what extent did you need to redesign your internal company processes?
But actually, not that much. Not that much, because if we speak about scalability that Manon mentioned earlier, we more or less reproduced in Odoo what we were doing like with pen and papers. So it was just like numerization of internal processes. And for accounting, we try to keep as close as possible from the current processes that we had with SAP, double validation standards and so on, which I think didn't exist originally in the V16 that we were using for Odoo. But with a few developments, we managed to keep the way we were working.
And I guess the main pain point was how you do consolidation, which you mentioned during your talk is
but at the
very
moment,
different.
the consolidation is done using third-party software. But yes, it's a little bit frustrating because everything we need is in Odoo at the moment, and still like we need to pay for software which is not as user-friendly as Odoo, with interface which is more complicated, and you actually need to export data from Odoo to this software, where we could do like from purchase order to pay to consolidated audited numbers directly into Odoo. So I think for the V19 it would be good that you start to work on this.
Yeah, so I actually work in R&D accounting, and so we did try and do something for V18.
Yeah, but we discussed it last year already and you didn't, so like you...
Well, it might not be there yet. There might be probably a lot more stuff that still needs to be done. Okay, a question about permissions to people. So I guess in SAP it's very easy to manage roles, segregate things. Were you able to do it the way you wanted in Odoo?
We still have work to do to really define well the access right. I should say that in SAP sometimes the people had access to some transactions or functionalities, but as it's so complex they didn't know, so it was more like blocking the people with non-knowledge of all the platform. So now there are still some stuff to do. We have to review each role.
You don't know if it's someone from our team who asked this question, no? No?
I can't tell.
Okay, okay, because this is something which is popping up very often internally.
Okay. Okay, just time for one last question. I guess it's a very quick question. If you could estimate the total cost of your migration, how much was it?
Like this, it's a bit difficult because
But
the internal cost is quite important too.
Yeah, but I would calculate just the cost of the people, so that would be 200,000 euros. Yeah.
Okay, great. For people who want the slides, I guess go talk to the people who want the slides, who have the slides. Otherwise, I guess time is up. Thank you so much for presenting. Yeah, thank you, Thibaut, Nicolas, and Manon.
Thank you. We will be at the